Hello, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another session of dtalks, that is Disruptive Education Talks. And I'm your host, Anupma Mahajan. And today we have with us a very special guest, that is Susmita from ASPBAE. Welcome, ma'am. Welcome to the show. And
Thank you.
now a little brief about ma'am. Uh, Susmita Choudhury is the Capacity Support and Advocacy Advisor of Asia's South Pacific Association for Basic and Adult Education, that is ASPBAE. Susmita manages the Education Out Loud program supported by Global Partnership for Education in the South and Central Asia region by providing technical support to national education coalitions on right to accessible, inclusive, and quality education for all. Welcome, ma'am. It's such a pleasure to have you on the show. And now, not without wasting too much time, I put you through to Susmita, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Anupama, and many thanks to Global Dream for Literacy for giving me this opportunity to come and share about our work. As Anupama said, that I work as the Capacity Support and Advocacy Advisor at Asia South Pacific Association for Basic and Adult Education. In short, it is called ASPBAE. And ASPBAE was established in 1964, and it is a regional organization, and we work in 150 countries, through 150 member organizations and 32 countries, which is spread in Asia and South Pacific region. Um, can we go to the next one, please?
Yeah, I'll just go to the next one. One sec. Uh,
Okay, so maybe I can just continue while Anupama is trying to get into the next slide. Asia South
yeah,
Pacific Association, we are in South Asia, we are operating in all the countries in South Asia, starting from Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, except Bhutan. And also we are operating in Central Asia. We recently have our Central Asia sub-region where we cover um, Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan and Uzbekistan. Apart from this, all those countries in the Southeast Asia, East Asia, and in the South Pacific. Um, ASBAE always believes in that.
can you see the screen?
Uh, shall I continue, or you will just try to get the
Yeah, can you
yeah.
see the second screen? Yeah, can you
Yeah,
see the
you can
second?
just
Okay,
move. Yeah, you
okay,
can move the screen. Go to the third one.
okay, okay. This is the third slide.
It is yet to come. Okay. Yeah. Thanks. So as I was sharing that ASPE believes as education as a right for all, and one of our main focus is that adult education and also basic education. And we believe that adult education helps to fight all sorts of discrimination, exclusion, and also helps in the participation, full participation of the marginalized communities. We also believe that the civil society organizations, they play a very critical role in ensuring the right to education for all. Next slide. We work through four main strategies that through which we are operating in this region. Before that, the goal is to secure the right of the citizens to basic and adult education, which will help in the poverty eradication, social justice, gender equality, and sustainable development and long-lasting peace. The next slide, we are talking about The main objectives, the three main objectives through which ASPBAE work is strengthening the capacities of the civil society organizations, which will help in fighting the poverty and empowering people. We also ensure that the recognition of civil society organizations and their contribution in policy and practice. So while we work with organizations who are working absolutely on advocacy, we are also working with organizations who are practitioners. So who are trying different innovative approaches in the field, and through these evidence-based, we are doing the policy advocacy at the national and the regional and the global level. We also believe in building ties of solidarity with other civil society networks and social movements. And likewise, we are part of the Asia Pacific CSO engagement mechanism, which is in one word called APRSEM, which is initiated by the UNSCAP. We are also part of all the forums at the regional and the global level, where we are constantly talking about the importance of right to education for all. And of course, we sustain an institutionally robust ASPBAE in ensure. We work through four main strategies. One is the policy advocacy. The second is the leadership and capacity building, strategic partnerships, and institutional strengthening. In terms of policy advocacy, I will just give some highlights of some of our engagements. So what we do is that in policy advocacy, we strengthen the national education coalitions, and we help them to hold the government accountable for quality and inclusive education through lifelong learning framework. And we have been part of the World Education Forum. We have been part of different other forums at the regional and global level, which initiated and which helped in the Sustainable Development Goal 4 drafting and advocating for that. We are also talking about education financing and privatization, which undermines the right to education for all. So we are very much talking about regulatory frameworks that is very much important for the right to education. We can just keep the slide over here and I will explain what are the programs. Thanks, Anupama. We believe that in terms of education financing, minimum 4 to 6% of the GDP is important, and also the national expenditure must be 15 to 20% of the budget. We contest on education privatization, as I earlier said, which undermines the education for all. And all these are done through the policy advocacy through at different levels, at the national level through the national education coalitions and ASPBAE members who are spread out in all these 32 countries. At the regional level, we engage with UNESCO, the UN bilateral bodies, and also with the UNSCAP through the civil society engagement mechanism. We participate in Asia Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development, where we bring the voices from the ground and bring it to these intergovernmental meetings and forums. At the same time, we also engage at the global level through high-level political forum, the United Nations General Assembly, etc. Our second strategy, if I try to explain the second strategy, it is on capacity building and leadership. As part capacity building being one of our major work, we have a pool of regional trainers, advocates, and champions of adult education. We organize trainings and workshops on advocacy, policy advocacy, on research, on innovative way of research, where we also ensure that how youths can be engaged in research work. We say youth action research, youth-led action research that we say. We have one of our flagship program where what we call Basic Leadership Development Course, or BLDC, where we engage with our members and we build their capacity on basic leadership skills. You can just move all this and go straight to the capacity building and leadership, Anupama. Thank you. We also engage with our members in to integrate that gender into their programs and policies. So we have come up with different toolkits, guidelines, and trainings for on gender mainstreaming. As civil society organizations, we believe that it is very important that the civil societies come together and they play a major role in promoting, in advocating for right to education for all. The third, where we uh, our strategy is the strategic partnership. We strengthen partnership with those people who are committed to adult education, non-formal education, gender justice, and equity and peace. Uh, we partner with organizations who believe in those areas and who think that it is very important to bring out the voices from the ground and bring it at the regional and the global level and vice versa, so that the learnings, the innovations, and the advices that comes from the regional level, what are the opportunities to bring them back at the national, the ground level, and replicate them depending on the context of the situation, of that particular area or the country. I already mentioned about how we engage at the regional level. We engage in drafting the voluntary national review report that countries, you must be already knowing, who submit annually during the high level political forum. So while we try to engage in preparation of the VNR, the voluntary national review report, we also come up with a parallel report on SDG 4, which we call PSO Spotlight Report, which also gives the idea like what is exactly happening on the ground, bringing all the experiences and learnings and happenings from the ground in these spotlight reports, which we try to share with the government at the national level, which is also an advocacy tool for us to share at the national level. And at the same time, we also share it at the global level and the regional level in the different forums, the HLPF or the APFST forum. And finally, the last strategy through which we work is the institutional strengthening. Of course, it is our responsibility that the members and the coalitions with whom we engage, we work together. It is very important that we uh, build their capacity. We reaffirm that accountability and governance is one of the major areas to which we should be working. Um, Fundraising, I think it is everybody's now responsibility to work on that. We also have dedicated ASPE communications to which we share the learnings, the innovations within our members and coalitions. We quarterly and annually we get all those writings from them and we try to share for innovations and replication. So, in brief, this is basically what we do, and I think that's enough, Anupama. It's not required the
Okay.
next talker. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. We are depending so much on digital, and sometimes digital literacy or the digital way of sharing becomes a pain. Right, what is happening right now with us,
Yeah.
that is
Yeah.
not working properly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. So now, what do you think the cause and effect of COVID has been on literacy as per your observation, ma'am?
See, we are witnessing a situation for the past 2 years. I think it is an unprecedented situation, and I think none of us have ever thought of like something like this will happen ever in our lifetime. We will face something like this. And if we look into what is happening all around the world, is that the the inequalities that was already present, the discrimination that was already present has actually widened further. It has become more visible now. And when we look into the development sectors, I think education is the worst hit. We know that in South Asia only, more than 400 million children and young people, their education is disrupted. They are not able to go to the school for the school closures. There will be several children and young people who have dropped out. Now that the schools are slowly reopening, we are seeing there are instances where there will be a huge number of children and youth, young people who will not go back to the school because they are already in different kind of work and different kind
I
of
believe there is a technical glitch there. And
uh,
yeah, Susmita, you're there, of course.
shall I continue or is it at my end? Anupama, hello?
Yeah,
Hello?
yeah, I'm there. Okay.
Okay.
Can you hear
Are
me?
you?
Sure.
Yeah, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Please continue.
Okay. Okay. So there has been huge job loss that we have seen, and especially I feel that the women and girls are one of the worst hit in this, in terms of like
Yeah,
uh, the women who have lost their job, who already most of the women we know are in the informal sector, and the informal
yeah,
sector is another is one of the worst hit in this whole situation. So that's one area. The second I feel is that the increase in the child marriage, and or early marriage, forced marriage, because when their schools are not working and the young girls are at home, the only thing that the parents thought is that let them be married. So there are several instances where we have seen that children or the young girls are who are not coming back to the school are mainly because they are all married. They have left their homes and they are in some other places. So that's another. And I think the other thing that I must mention here is about the child labor, which has also increased a lot, and the increase of sexual and physical violence. We did a brief study, and we found that there has been an immense increase in sexual violence and physical violence because the men are were at the home at a very long time, like several hours, and the frustration, no jobs and everything, and there can be several excuses that can be made for physical violence or sexual violence of women and girls, and that has actually happened in this situation. And finally, I must say is that tremendous pressure on the budget, because there is a tendency that a huge amount, the budget will be more pushed towards the health sector because of
yeah.
obvious reasons.
Uh,
So
so yes,
education is
COVID has made people suffer a lot, and
hmm,
there has been a huge impingement of literacy also, and we have gone back by 2 decades. And the second question is, how has COVID 19 exacerbated the long standard inequalities in girls' education and digital access for children and youth? So basically, till so ASPBAE or ASPAE Youth Action Research Manual aims to develop capacities of youth in Asia Pacific, and they have done huge work in this area. ASPAE, that is, they have done, they've forged partnerships. They are been into adult education, learning, gender justice, equity, and peace. And their mission has been specifically, like she said, hello, are you back, ma'am? Yeah,
I don't know. I got disconnected. Yeah,
yeah,
sorry.
I'm glad you're
I
back.
didn't hear. I didn't hear your question. Can you please repeat?
Yeah, the second question I was putting you through was that how has COVID 19 exacerbated the long standard inequalities in girls' education and digital access for children and youth?
Yeah, see, digital society is no longer a future, it is present. Like if we, when we look into anything, you say Aadhaar card or simple banking, using an ATM card or anything you say, like day to day life, it is all
Yeah.
like digital now. But when we look into like who are the most sufferers in this whole thing, is that the women. First and foremost, when we look into the last 2 years, I'm not saying the like the situation maybe before 2019, but the last 2 years, if we see, um, when for online education, we need a smartphone. The student need a smartphone, but I'm
Yes.
not talking about the urban setting. We have to think of the rural setting, which is the majority of India or any other country. Who owns that smartphone? It is majorly, mostly the male in the house. So the control and the access of the device, the basic device that is required by the student, by the girl to study, is not there with her. She also has no accessibility to the internet facility. Whatever the device is with the male person, or even if when the device is going to the student, you will see it is to the son,
Yeah.
who is actually accessing it or doing the studies and all. Secondly,
Absolutely.
I feel is that, secondly, I also feel is that, like, even if the woman when is accessing, there is a lot of surveillance. What is she seeing in that? What is she studying in that? What is she looking into that in the when she's accessing the smartphone
True.
or whatever the device? So that's another area, I think. And these inequalities were already there, but the COVID has actually made it more visible. It's like
Absolutely.
just on our face now that, oh, yes, this is happening. This is all that is happening. Now, you will see that government has come up with different schemes and programs where it talks about like digital literacy and all. But the question is opening Skype or is knowing how to do WhatsApp, is the digital literacy? That is what we are expecting women and girls to do. Because to even open the Skype or open a WhatsApp, you need the basic literacy. The basic
Absolutely.
literacy is very important to actually access that digital literacy. If you don't know how to read and write it, how are you
Very,
expected
very
to know
rightly
like
said.
how to? So
Yeah.
those, and there are several. I think there, if we start like listing them out, so I think it's very important that we understand. And also, when we talk about sustainable development goals, we say no one is left behind, but the example is just on our face. Whom are we catering to? The urban population who have access to these devices, these facilities, and the majority are actually left behind. So we need to be very careful while we are talking about those areas. Simple basic thing, how if a woman doesn't know about the literacy and digital, which actually goes together. So as you know what is literacy, and then only you can get into the digital literacy aspect. So as you get into that, you know how to connect the climate issues with the on this, with this you have more exposure to what is happening around the world and how it is impacting your life. Maybe it is happening, we will say, oh, global climate issue, global thing, we don't know, I am just in my house, but it is also somewhere affecting, impacting your own life. So how it is happening, so those things I think the women are missing out a lot. That, that,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. In your view, what is the most impactful action governments can take to make education systems more inclusive?
I think the public education system, that is, we ASPBAE is a promoter of like public education system. We always believe that when we talk about education for all, it is the public education system, because privatization is actually not the answer. It cannot be the answer to where we can include everyone in the education system. The public education system need to happen in a manner where it, and especially now, I think 2019 was a different, 2019 and before was a different situation when we used to talk about everything, education majorly we used to talk about offline, but now we have to talk about, it's a different world now. So we have to talk about how online and offline can go together. Whom can we bring into this whole process? The infrastructure is very important to reach out to the last person, the remotest, the girl who is there in the remotest end. We also need to be, I think, how we can when we talk about women literacy or girls literacy, it's not only the formal literacy, the non-formal literacy plays a major role in that. So how we include the non-formal literacy in this whole process. And also, I think public provisioning of the increase of domestic financing. In India, we have already seen, I can give the example of India, where the we saw in this budget there has been a slash in the education budget. So if we talk about digital and everything, we need more provisioning, more domestic financing for proper public education, and cross-sectoral coordination. Education is not only the Ministry of Education, frankly. If we think of lifelong learning, if we think in a way how to work together, so how we link the SDG 4, the education for all, with
Yeah, very rightly said that
quality.
education is just not what the government is indicating, but education is like a wholesome experience. So
Yeah,
when we say that, it's basically about bringing in all the stratas, and also the government has also realized since 2019 that the extra cost they were, you know, putting in on the table, on the chair, on the office, on the traveling. So much of that cost can be saved with online interaction, and the same cost can be put forward to education in the slum areas or providing Wi-Fi or internet in the interiors so that maximum people can benefit it. You know, now the government has also realized, people have realized that the physical cost of a table, of an office space, of traveling, all that can be saved, and it can be used elsewhere for more online education, for so that more and more people can be benefited from the same.
yeah.
Yes.
Of course,
uh,
that is very important. But when we talk about a country of 1.2 billion, just saving money from office space and tables and chairs won't suffice. No, we
yeah,
there is a need for increase in the public expenditure on education in India, at
yes,
least. And when I look
ab-
into the whole Asia Pacific, it is the same. It's some places, in some countries we work in Central Asia, there is a 15 to 20% of uh, public expenditure on education, but it is not where the mouth is. The food is not where the mouth is. It is like
absolutely.
inappropriately distributed. So which is not actually helping in the whole process. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So then going on to our next question, forging partnership is the key tool to solve different problems of the world. What
Mhm.
are some key qualities your organization generally looks for?
See, as you see, we have so many members and all over Asia Pacific. The basic thing that ASPE looks into is that organizations or individuals who believe that education is a fundamental human right. That is the basic thing. And believing that adult education and basic education are critical to each other's achievements and success, and because we believe that universal primary education is not possible until and unless you have a safe environment at the home and in the community, and that is only possible when we sorry, when you also focus on the adult education. Adult education is one that also helps in facing, in addressing the poverty and discrimination. So organizations who believe in these areas. We also think of like the ethical issues, the how the organization is working together. That is very important, and of course, how we as civil society organization we have a common agenda, because globally now the tendency is a push back towards the civil societies. There is a shrinking space of the civil society, so it is very important that organizations with similar agendas, with similar mindset, with similar kind of issues, we come together and we bring in front the issues or our advocacy key messages. And those advocacy key messages must be backed by evidences from the ground. We cannot just go and say we need the moon. No, we are not asking for the moon. We are asking some very specific things which will benefit the most marginalized. Because ASPA's main one of our main agenda is that we cater to the most vulnerable and the most marginalized. So how we reach out to them, that is also very important.
So, like coming to the end of this conversation here, I would like you to sum up what is the mission of ASPE then, in your words, and
Uh,
how do you intend growing on this mission?
we see as ASPE is an regional network organization, and we strengthen ourselves from the work of our members. And as ASBE, we try to enhance the capacity of our members and organization members and coalitions, national education coalitions, build their capacity on various issues. We also ensure that we document different good practices and then share it for replication and also as innovative factors. And the other thing, we capacitate our members and organizations so that they can hold the government accountable as duty bearers. So as you read my what who I am in the organization, my designation is the capacity support for education out loud. The education
Yes.
out loud is a program of global partnership for education which mainly focuses on how national education coalitions will be able to hold the government engage in the whole education sector planning of a country and hold the government accountable as duty bearers. And it's not
Okay.
like finding out the gaps and challenges, it's a win-win. We also bring in something on the government, and we bring the real picture which the government sometimes it's a huge task for them. So we bring in the voices, and we believe that if we work together, if civil societies and government work together, it will always benefit the larger group.
Very rightly said. So beautifully put. And we really wish that you are successful in your capacity building and in the mission what ASPE has in mind. It was such a pleasure to have you over on the show, ma'am. And good evening to everybody. And there we end the show. Thank you very much for being there, Susmita. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anupama, and very sorry for this technical glitches. We have to now learn to
We
live.
have absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. It was such a
Thank you
pleasure
all.
having you over.
Thank you
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you, ma'am.